How not to be manipulated by the media. Introduction. Life without a computer or smartphone seems very difficult today, or even completely impossible. Children and young people spend twice as much time using the internet and digital media compared to time spent at school. In addition, the media are already so deeply rooted in social life that, when searching for information, they are typically the first choice in the process of obtaining news. It is hard to disagree that mass media influences both culture and education and is one of the most important tools of cultural and social nature. On the other hand, mass media, which is used to provide information widely and quickly to large, diverse and anonymous groups of people, is often not properly used. It is also characterized by the speed of transferring information, potentially carrying a lot of danger, including manipulation. What is manipulation? Manipulation is a statement expressing the essential nature of something. Discourse is intended to give a mental image of something experimental, and it may contain stipulated or assigned meaning, which it must derive from observation or experience. Evans and Lucas have described two categories of features for a valid definition of manipulation in 1. The action, which the practitioner does to the recipient, and 2. The accompanying mechanical response, which occurs within the recipient. Manipulation is generally considered a dishonest form of social influence as it is used at the expense of others. It is worth stressing that manipulation differs from general influence and persuasion. Non-manipulative influence is generally perceived to be harmless, and it is not seen as unduly coercive to the individual's right of acceptance or rejection of influence. Manipulation may be labelled as small or big. The first is limited to the smaller environment, such as neighbours, school community, friends and family, while the second applies to a larger part of society, such as political manipulation. Manipulation techniques include, but are not limited to, distorting or falsifying information. Framing is described as an interesting manipulation technique. It is quite common in mass media. It is most often used on social forums to reach the recipient as much as possible. This technique is based, among other things, on distorting information so that the given information is interpreted in a way that it is close to the recipient's worldview. Framing treatments include metaphor, distortion of information by comparing it with something or someone else, such as authority, fact, or confusion with other research. History, the presentation of news through narration or autobiography. And slang, describing information using a catchy phrase. As for effectiveness, we can distinguish 3 types of manipulation. 1. Effective. 2. Unsuccessful. And 3. The boomerang effect. Successful manipulation is the one that brings about the intended goal. The second type may be unsuccessful due to various factors, for example, a poorly chosen technique. On the other hand, manipulation with the boomerang effect is one that brings the opposite effect to that which is intended. The most common ways of presenting events in a manipulative way include the following treatments: selecting appropriate quotes, a manipulative sequence of photos and images, incomplete or misleading description, and controversial title. Manipulation is primarily selective in presenting facts and content, or focusing only on those which, according to the author of the content, should be remembered the most. Another manipulation technique is ingratiation, which consists of two basic actions. Firstly, increasing the sympathy of the recipient, as well as gaining favors and views, and increasing the personal attractiveness or authority in order to attract the addressees of the manipulation. This is most often encountered during election campaigns or various activities of famous influencers or YouTubers. A fairly common practice is the technique of suggestion, based on language and propaganda. A particularly important role is played by slogans, which, through propaganda, lead to the desired suggestion. Now, undoubtedly, manipulation is based on emotions. The message created by the media should evoke emotions among the recipients as much as possible. An example of such manipulations are, among others, the messages created by the Russian media, which tried to create an image of the West as an unfavorable world. Noam Chomsky formulated 10 strategies of manipulation in the mass media to make young people aware of how the media can manipulate them. 1. Distraction strategy, used to divert the public's attention from an important problem to a less important one. 2. The problem reaction solution strategy, which involves creating a problematic situation and then solving it. The purpose of this is to start a discussion and then introduce the desired changes, such as spreading misinformation about a dangerous trend among teenagers in order to limit the use of one of the social media platforms. 3. A strategy of slowly, routinely disseminating disinformation to impose a new mindset or radical views. 4. Postponement strategy, consisting in persuading the recipient to accept a controversial topic or decision as the one that is unwanted and necessary. It is a manipulative representation of reality. 5. Having a discussion as if addressing a child. Most advertisements or announcements are constructed in an infantile way. For example, with children's intonation, based on weaknesses and false concern for people. If we approach someone as a child, they most often lose the ability to think critically, so there is a high probability that the person will be manipulated. 6. Using emotions as a basis for manipulation. 7. Keeping the public in a state of unawareness and dispensing information. 8. Encouraging mediocrity and ignorance as part of a fashion or trend. This technique promotes ignorance and lack of education. 9. Manipulation based on negative emotions, blaming oneself and finding one's faults. Finally, 10. Knowing someone better than they know themselves. The belief that the system, various platforms for quick tests and self-diagnosis, for example, knows us better than we know ourselves. There are many methods and techniques of manipulation. We also know that its purpose is to distort reality. Therefore, it is worth paying attention to the persuasion procedure in which, in contrast with manipulation, the recipient is aware of being under the influence of the communication and is equal with the discussion partner. Robert Cialdini, an American psychology researcher, described 6 techniques of persuasion. 1. Reciprocity, consisting of reciprocating the partner. 2. Consistency, getting so involved despite the unfavorable circumstances of our views, opinions, or decisions. 3. Social proof, the proof by which a person often subordinates themselves to the others, taking responsibility for its own self. 4. The rule of liking, a technique also based on creating sympathy so that the information transmitted affects the individual more quickly. 5. Authority, which is a technique based on using position to achieve better persuasion goals. And finally, 6. Inaccessibility, meaning limited access to information or goods. This method is very often used commercially. In summary, critical thinking competence protects us from becoming victims of manipulation. Critical thinkers easily question the content of the received information and can recognize manipulation techniques. A critical thinker may formulate the following questions. Why? For what purpose? What is the author's intention? The answers to these questions can be helpful in recognizing manipulation. So it's worth knowing a few simple rules in order to protect yourself from manipulation. Firstly, the principle of limited trust. Always verify information. Secondly, do not repeat unverified information. And finally, if someone spreads misinformation, ask for its source.